Hello everyone, this is Sir Eisenstein, Captain of the Iron Hands Lodge. Today, we will be looking into 8 beginner-friendly decks that do not contain a single legendary card. This came up as a request on Reddit from a number of people to create few decks for new players that might not have all the cards in the game. It is quite understandable to be frustrated when trying to copy a deck from a high-ranking player with all the shiny legendaries when you don't have the same cards. When I'm creating a deck, when I'm building a deck, for me there are 3 main pillars. First of all, your warlord has a strong ability, and you're trying to build the deck around your warlord. Someone like Perturabo, for example, that can deal tons of damage from his active ability. The number 2 will be there's a strong troop combination or a general synergy within a faction. Someone like Salamanders, which has quite forgiving new player friendly cards, for example, with their survivor passive. And third, the last pillar when I look into creating a deck is a special combo deck, which we will discuss later on. In my opinion, a good deck has to be based on one or more of these pillars, at least one or more. And one last point before I go to the decks themselves, most of the decks I'm going to show are meant to be highly swappable. So if you don't have the exact same cards, do not worry about it. These are meant to be starting guidelines to give you an idea and climb the ladder on low tiers while having fun. So starting off with special commendations to Numeon. This was actually my first warlord that carried me to the Terra. I was around 800 points, and then after started playing Numeon, I hit 2.5 around a month's time. So the idea behind the Numeon is you give one survivor passive to an infantry or an Astartes troop, and it also comes with a 5 survivor as a starting point. So in terms of your health, you are better than a 35 health warlords, because that survivor can be more useful than flat out health. And with your ability, what you're trying to do is you aim for lots of small low energy cost infantry. You can go early game with the Pharaoh's militias, for example. This could be quite annoying to get rid of if the opponent don't have the right direct damage cards, and you could end up dealing good amount of damage to the opponent's warlord or the troops, or simply make the opponent use more cards than they should have on just a single energy troop. When building it, this guy burns cards quite fast, especially with such a fast deck. So you will want to keep some sort of card draw, such as the Lectio Divinatus in your deck. I also always recommend having an anti-stealth option in pretty much all the decks, such as your Informant Network, which can also deal area damage. Your core troop in the deck is going to be the Rastan, which is quite strong stats for a 4 energy troop. It also comes with 3 survivor, and if you sacrifice, meaning when you attack and your troop dies, you also deal 2 damage to all the enemies. Now the combo behind this is you attack with something like Rastan, and after that you give survivor to it, so suddenly you have a troop that technically died, uses survivor, and then you give another survivor, and the cycle continues on. A good thing about the Salamanders is they do have a number of frontline options as well. This is one of them. They also have a good number of troops that can deal area damage. For example, this one, although it's quite cheap, you can deal 2 damage to all enemies. And one of the last cards to mention will be this guy. It's probably one of the most useful early game troops to put into play. You put it 2 energy, turn 3 you attack, then you give your ability to it and it's staying on board while dealing 5 damage to enemy warlord or 2 to a troop, 3 to the enemy warlord. And bear in mind, if the enemy were to attack it first, triggering its survivor ability, just simply give it a survivor again to keep it on board. I do like to use drilling sites. If you don't have them and you have the Arvun's lighters, I believe they are, use them, sort of any energy recovery cards. If you don't have any, don't sweat, it still works fine. And to finish it off, for some of the higher energy cost cards, fire drakes can be quite useful as they come with the survivor and they have a means of sustaining themselves, and a Hydra doesn't hurt in any deck with, you know, increasing enemy tactic cost too. Moving on, something quite similar to it is the Ateshtarsa. Now the playstyle is very similar with this one. You're basically doing the same thing as the Numeon, but instead of giving one survivor to a friendly infantry or an Astartes, now you're giving 1 to any unit next to your warlord, so left and right. I can't say the word, unfortunately. And this one is a little bit more energy intensive than the Numeon though, and it's a little bit harder to pull, mainly because this is 2 energy, forcing you to play lower energy troops or not being able to use your warlord's active ability. But if you can get it work and you have stuff like the drilling sites or the Arvus lighter, this might be a better option than the Numeon himself. It also comes with lots of cards like the Atarvas, which can, you know, steal an enemy's card from the hand, or the Autek Moors, which can create an Astartes in your hand as well. And again, the Marauder squad. With this one, just again same principle as Numeon. Get cheap troops, give them your ability, make opponents spend more energy than they should have. Moving on. So the first 2 we covered was basically strong troops and strong combination within the troops, and your warlord ability was supporting it. This is similar matter. Not many people plays the Narek, and its ability is you create a random Iron Hands vehicle in your hand and you give +1 health to it. What I see most people playing this is they usually put very expensive vehicles in the hand, and then they sort of die off quite quickly because they're not fast enough. Now the trick with it is the Iron Heads vehicle, except for the Rhino here, all of them are actually quite expensive troops. I mean, the cheapest one being 5 energy, and they're quite strong troops as well. So your idea behind this guy is you using your ability to create this strong troops in your hand while using your Astartes troops or some of the cheaper troops and your damage potential to basically keep the opponent occupied. And the way you play this guy is you don't necessarily trying to damage the opponent, you don't necessarily trying to out damage them. The whole idea is you trying to get opponent into spending more cards than you do. The good thing is you can create a strong vehicle, drop it in the late game, and after a while they will be running out of cards, and this is how you basically get them. You can swap multiple cards in this. This is fairly flexible. If you want to get some vehicles in it, I do recommend having supply lines, so you pull it early on. Logos is quite useful. On top of healing your 4, it also gives +1 attack to vehicles and structures you put into play. It synergies quite well with your ability created troops. And other than that, stuff like the Dominators, for example, I don't see it being played that often. It's quite good to have, or the Iron Havoc squad, just to keep your warlord safe enough, especially with this card. against your Angrons and your Khans, you know, like the very aggressive troops, just to keep it safe enough that the opponents start running out of troops, and then you employ your, you know, created high high energy vehicles. Moving on, I was a bit hesitant to include this this lady here. I cannot say her name, no chance. She's quite popular, so I tried to make the list using the least popular warlords, but there will be 2 warlords in the list that is, you know, in the popular ones. So this lady here, all of your troops cost 1 less, and it's massive. So this Stormbringer is not 8 energy for you, it's 7 energy. If you want to play the Facadian infantry, it doesn't cost you any energy, just put it. When it dies, you get a free card. So it's actually a stunning passive, and as a cherry on top, you also get to have an active ability. Now I don't recommend using active ability that often. Try to control the board presence, because this is a very early game focused warlord. You only have 30 health pool, so if opponents are rushing to you or the game goes too late, you're probably not going to survive that much. So you want to use your ability, drop big troops early on, and basically dominate the game from early game on forwards. And in terms of the build, there's a number of ways you can go. If you want, you can go entire Imperial Army based or entirely Mechanicum based troops, which synergies well within their factions. I opted for both here, sort of to show what you can do. The best cards to go with her is probably card draws again. The Facadian infantries are good, your Lectio Divinatus are good, Secutari Axiax, because you don't have any Astartes, most of your troops will be based as infantry, and these guys are phenomenal drop for 2, for your only 1 energy of course. And also try to have at least one of these McCormick Reapers as well for 3 energy. They basically stick on the board non-stop, and even if they were to die to attacking, so what? Then you can just heal it if you had the energy. Remember, your ability is not +1/+1, it also heals 1 as well, so you get 2 health on a troop, so you can keep your troops on board for a long time. Before I go, one quick combo with it though. These guys, if you can get them and stick on the board, stuns any enemies damage in combat, it can make any opponent's day a nightmare. Following up with that, Loken. Now this is the warlord everyone starts the game with, so this is probably going to be a warlord everyone has, and the cards most likely everyone is going to have as well. Only epic ones I included are the Void Engagements for a bit of a card draw. If you don't have it, don't sweat, but they actually help quite a bit in my opinion. As you can see, it's very fast deck because you're burning out cards quite fast. He only has 30 health pool, it's quite vulnerable, especially against some of the big guys. But your active ability, you're dealing 2 damage, and the whole idea is you want to deal damage as fast as possible. If you have something like the Vengeful Spirit, please change this to that. It will, you know, finish your game so much easier. The main cards to look for is the Chariot of the Gods. They are very good cards for damage, and you get to draw a card as well. The Resupply is very good on top of it. Probably don't need the Lectio Divinatus, but I added just in case. Just put a couple of troops. The ones with the card draw is your best bet. And Sons of Horus, they tend to have quite strong troops. And stick with dealing damage with this guy. It should get you to good places, but it doesn't scale that well. Next up, another popular warlord, Khan. Pretty much any World Eater's warlord is viable because of their face bashing, you know, playstyle. It's quite strong, similar to Loken, similar to the lady from Tisca. You want to have a very fast deck with this guy, because you have Bloodthirst, and you can also deal damage to yourself of the enemy unit. with it as well, so you can get the enemy low HP quite fast, especially true if they're a 30 HP warlord. Now what you want to have, you want to have heals. You can include more heals, but 3 alphas are the best, and you want to employ as much as damage possible to clear the board. The Nerve Survivor is a great card. If there's no opponents, do mortar strikes, and usually by turn 5-6 you should be looking to finish the game, latest by the turn 8. One combo to look for will be having your supply lines to pull your vehicles, so it will be your lord preferably. If you can play supply lines at turn 3, at turn 4 put your cheap lords, pretty much going to dominate the game from onwards. And for your speeders as well, save your sweeping advances to use them with your sweepers, if you can of course, to deal a crushing low energy cost big combo. Following that up is Brown. To get the Brown from the Angel Tal, I can't say, no chance. To get him, there we go. You need 15. I'm pressing the wrong keyboard. You need 15 Chaos cards to get this guy into this guy. Bit of a cosmetic change there. So Chaos natural cards tends to be the weakest in the game. Include the ones you like the most. Good to have ones is of course anti-stealth ones, and the damage ones as well. I find the Silent Dead can be quite useful, especially if your opponent sort of surprises you early game, or they drop some big troop early on or mid game and you couldn't finish it off, just to stun it one more turn to get the thing done. Idea behind this is simple. You drop your nice troops, such as your Jadima Scott, you drop your stealth troops, and you just face bash the enemy. Be careful though, you only have 30 HP, but you do heal too if you kill a troop. So early on, focus on killing any sort of troops that could come to your way. And lastly, as I promised, I will show off the combo deck as well. I actually play Ingetil until around, I will say 3000, maybe 3300 ranking. After that, I can't sustain it. It's one of my favorite warlords to play, and this is based off my my deck that I use. I just removed the Legendaries, which was around 5 or 6 cards. So except that 5-6 cards, this is pretty much the deck I play with, and it is quite flexible to do so. Now it's not the strongest deck, but the idea behind it is Ingetel gives a mark of chaos to a troop, and when you have 4 marks of chaos on a troop, they become a greater demon. When I say greater demon, it will be one of these 4 guys. If I can type demon, of course. So you will create either the soft Epoeg, which creates random tactics in your hand, or just 7-8 damage, or Kyria, this Seducer, amazing thing to have against your Angrons and Karns and such, or Father Decay, and lastly the big boy Slayer of Words. With my deck, with the Legendaries, I can pull off the Great Demon in the turn 3, latest sort of turn 4 or 5. With this deck, earliest I managed to pull off was turn 4. Still though, being able to pull a 15 damage troop at your 4th turn, and if your opponent doesn't have a heart removal at hand that early on, it can secure the game quite early. Your entire game plan is you want troops that will stick, and you want to buff them as fast as possible. You want to hold on to your Taint of Chaos cards on your hands. You want to hold on to your Temptations that gives Mark of Chaos, and your Corrupting Influences. as soon as you have enough energy, that's when you drop these cards, and then boom, you got the card basically. The troops to aim to have is ones with the stealth, such as your Nissa scouts. You can go stuff like where is it? The undercover cultist, which has duplicious. I can't say the things, unfortunately. Which prevents your opponent's warlord to attack. And bear in mind, every time you use the Ingetel ability, you also give them +1 health as well. But main thing is you're trying to get these cheap troops to a greater demon as fast as possible, and hope the opponent does not have a heart removal on hand. You will need lots of card draws, multiple Lectio Divinatus. You will need maybe a little bit of energy as well with Drilling Sights and Argus if you have them. If you don't, it's fine. And lastly, to add to these as well, do remember your passive reduces the maintenance cost for the demons, so you might want to include stuff like where is it gone, such as this card here, Beast of Pyra, which has a Bloodthirst as well, and it only costs you 1 maintenance, so your top energy, sort of, let's say being 5, will be 1 - 4. Be wary though, if an opponent stuns these troops, you're gonna be having a bit of a hard time, as they do consume your maximum energy pool. And that was it, guys. Please let me know what you think of the video. It was a bit of a long one, but wanted to show off. Originally it was supposed to be only 3 decks, turned out to be 5, then 7, then 8. I couldn't stop myself. Remember, every like and comment to this video will be returned as a single bolter shell to be used against the traitors. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.